I should have just posted the podcast I did. I tried to do this intro like 5 minutes ago, and it turned into this manna-fucking-festo that no one will ever hear about hashtags and heartfelt moments of my life. Here's what's going on. This is an intro. Tour dates. Go to bertcast.com. I am in Philly, Dayton, and Baltimore. I think that's it. Maybe Irvine also in December. Tour dates are getting canceled because I'm in production. I'm in production to make money for my family. I'm not doing the podcast you love. That sometimes you're like, how come you haven't been on Rogan? Trust me. If I'm in town for 2 days, I definitely email Joe. Joe's schedule is packed. So don't worry. The second I can and our schedules link up, it will happen. Same with Joey Diaz. Same with Ralphie May. All my friends, I'm trying to get them on my podcast. I'm trying to get on their podcasts, but I'm only home for 2 days, possibly sometimes. And when I'm home, I have to be a dad, and that is my number one priority. Please respect this masculinity. I'm obsessed with the hashtag masculinity. Masculinity is so fragile because mine is horrifically fragile. My masculinity is sitting on a ledge, and everyone's yelling "jump," including me. I guess I have no masculinity. I don't even know if I'm masculine at all. I should look up Stop. Okay, here we go. Great podcast coming out today. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Michigan. My whole crew's asleep. My call isn't until 2 hours after theirs, and I'm having a nice cold. Oh, should have been timed better. I'm having a nice cold beer. All right. What else was I going to tell you? Oh, I'm thinking about doing this. Tell me if you like this. I haven't read that Rolling Stone article about myself in 18 years. I read it maybe probably twice the day it came out, and that was it. And I realized that the other day, a friend of mine, God damn it, it's fucking semantics. A guy I know on Twitter, Luca Bana, posted that he bought a copy of The Undergraduate, my article in the Rolling Stone magazine, and it kind of hit me weird, and I thought I haven't really thought about that article in a long time. I tried to distance myself from it for a very long time, and I would say up until recently I started embracing it. And maybe I got to who fucking knows. My point is I was thinking about reading it out loud on a podcast, reading the whole article from beginning to end, because I know that the majority of you haven't read it, and I know that my audiobook sold exponentially better than my my written book, because I'm so good at reading aloud, and I get off track, and it's only 6.5 pages, so I think I can get through that in easily an hour. Anyway, so let me know if you think I should do that or not. And if you want me to do it, what am I saying? Can I tell you this? This is the truth. Tell me if you think that would be ego-driven. Don't say that would be ego-driven. Just say like, hey, Bert, read the article. Would rather not hear it on your podcast. Be kind. I have a soft soul. I have no masculinity. All right. So that's it. Did I tell them my stand-up dates? Go to bertcast.com. Philly, Baltimore, Dayton, Irvine, not in that order. Shooting Bert the Conqueror. If you hit me up, tell me where you are. Maybe we're going to be in your town. I know we're definitely going to Springfield. We're going to Branson. We're going to Florida. We're going to Utah. We're going to Montana, I think. So hit me up. Let me know. All right. Today's guest. Today's guest is from the All Things Comedy motherfucker. Let me say that again. Today's guest is a brother of mine on the All Things Comedy Network. He has a podcast called The Long Shot. It's him, Jamie Flan, Amber Kenny. His name is Sean Conroy. Sean and I have a past that has intermingled. That's not the right word. Sean and I have had a few drinks. He's a comic. He's done UCB. He taught at UCB. You'll hear all of this on the podcast. He's a fantastic performer. He's beaten me out for a couple roles, and one we'll talk about that I totally forgot until he brings it up. And the guy is massively funny, massively talented. Put your hands together. Do it. See what it feels like to clap by yourself in your car, in your cubicle, golf clap for Sean Conroy.
This is Bertcast.
Yeah. Hey, there's the mic right there. You can. It is.
Make sure my phone is off.
Oh, it doesn't matter even if it's on. Take the call. The Coddling of the American Mind. It is. I just heard it on NPR, and so I've never heard of the term microaggressions. Ever heard of microaggressions?
No.
Microaggressions is
It's like when a small guy wants to fight you.
that probably actually is a microaggression. Microaggressions are when, like you say, I was very guilty of it in the 90s and well into the 2000s. When you see like an Asian person and you go, or a person of mixed nationality, you go, so what are you? And then, I don't know, I always found it like,
It's like you don't really have a right to ask that question.
You don't. But
you're not being hostile, but in a sense it is aggressive.
It is aggressive.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure I was microaggressive. There's a woman we know, and she was adopted, and then she just found out she's like half black. Mm-hmm. And I was blown the fuck away. And she was like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, what do you mean, whatever? Like, you just found out you're you're black.
You were like, come on, man, Black Lives Matter.
Like, I'm like, there's so much shit you need to catch up on. Like,
right.
And she was like, well, it doesn't change who I am. And I go, but if I found out that I was half black, I would totally change who I was. Like, it would I don't know. It's like one time I said to an audience member, I said, I asked him what he was. And
Microaggression.
And he said,
you can check out Bert's album, Microaggressions.
He said, I'm part black, part Native American. And I went, oh, how cool. And he went, nah, what do you mean? I said, I don't know, man. Isn't it awesome to be Native American? And he goes, no. He's like, what are you? I said, just Irish and German. And he goes, so you think you'd be more interested in yourself if you were Native American?
Right. You'd rather be the victims of slavery and genocide?
Yeah, right. So anyway, this coddling of the American mind is the whole thing that Jerry Seinfeld was saying about.
Yes.
Did you have an opinion about?
Well, I do think it's become an issue at this point. I mean, I don't. I probably haven't thought about it enough to have a real clear opinion on it.
Right.
But I do notice certain things are hot buttons for audiences, and they get squeamish, and they go, he said this thing, and I don't know how to react because it's funny, but I don't think I'm supposed to laugh at that.
Exactly.
And I think that's not good.
I think it's sad, and I think it's sad. I mean, here's the deal: is that I don't think the Seinfeld ever really did colleges. Like he doesn't.
Right.
Know, like I don't think he really knows what he's talking about. Him or Chris Rock. I think they're both. It's like let them eat cake.
They're like I'm going to refuse to do colleges from now on.
Yeah, I would love to.
I only have $5 billion in the bank. So
I would love to see his quote for a college.
Right.
I want to see Seinfeld at NACA. But like I definitely go. I think I've definitely had that problem in colleges, but I probably worked a lot bluer than you should have at a college. Mm-hmm. You know, and quite honestly, the kids that are going to those shows aren't really like the coolest kids.
Right.
Like, I mean, they were.
Yeah, I mean, I went to all the comedy shows when I was in college.
Did you really?
So, yeah. Well, no, that's not true. But I went to a bunch of them. And
I never knew we had a comedian.
We had, we had like, when I was in college, we had emo came to my school a bunch of times.
Are you an emo fan?
Yeah.
I'm a massive emo fan.
Judy Tenuta was there. Kevin Meaney was there. I remember Kevin Meaney.
So fucking funny.
Because Kevin Meaney was like, I'm supposed to be on Saturday Night Live next year. And then I don't think he ever was. Or maybe he was for like a season or something. But
where did you go to school?
I went to Holy Cross College in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Did you really? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York, right outside New York City.
Yeah? Did you go into the city as a kid?
I did. I actually went to high school in the Bronx. So
really?
Yeah, I went to high school in the Bronx, motherfuckers. At a prep school.
Is it you're not a aggro dude, but was like from everything I know of you, you're not like a meathead frat boy.
No,
head butter.
I don't think so.
But there is an interesting aspect of you is that you're a big man. Mm-hmm. So growing up, there was this challenge the big dog.
Of course.
And you're not that guy.
No, but I got into those things more than a few times.
Like what?
I mean, the worst one that ever happened this was after I got out of college, actually. I was with two of my buddies from college, and they're both little guys. and we were in Larchmont, New York. You know, rough area right by the yacht club, and we were at a bar, and literally there's a place called the Larchmont Yacht Club, not to be confused with the Larchmont Shore Club, which is a very similar establishment. But we were at a bar, and we had a few drinks, and then we were going to go home, and we decided to stop off for one more at this place that was called... I still remember the name of it because I wanted to firebomb it for years after that. It was called PK's Pub.
Yeah.
And we walked in and we sat down, and immediately there was a table of 8 guys right next to us who were like, let's fucking, like, we could hear them going, like, let's kick the shit out of these guys. And one of the guys, like, took his glasses off and put them in his pocket. And one of the guys turned to the bouncer and said, we're going to fight these guys. Is that cool? And the bouncer goes, hey, man, this is all within our earshot.
Yeah.
The bouncer goes, hey, man, I haven't gotten laid in 2 weeks. I'm looking for action. Let's do it. And so one of the guys starts shit with one of my friends, who stands up and says, you know, just leave me the fuck alone. And the guy grabbed his shoulder. So I jumped up and grabbed that guy. 2 of those guys grabbed me. So this is all within like 3 seconds. They swing me around, hit me or smack my head into a support stanchion, split my head open. So now I'm like, not unconscious, but just stunned and can't, you know, pouring blood out of my head. And the bouncer grabs me from behind. I realized later it was the bouncer, not one of the other guys. There's a huge plate glass window in the front of the place. I'm like, in my head, I'm going, I'm going to be the guy from those movies who goes flying through the plate glass window.
And it never works out like it does in the movies.
Oh, you would be cut to shreds if you did something like that.
It's not just and then on your back.
Right.
I mean, if you just threw me on my back on the cement, I'd be fucked for a week.
But luckily he did not. He just threw me out on the street because he didn't want any blood on the floor in the bar. And so then, you know, I'm bleeding. An ambulance comes. They take me to the hospital. I got like 13 stitches in my head.
Where? I can't even see the scar.
No, it's on the top. It's like under my, and I don't think it's that big anymore. Because it was this was in 1947, so this is a long time ago. But so then we go back. There's literally a police station right across the street from the bar. So we go back to this police station. It's 5 a.m. They've taken witness statements from everybody at the bar.
Yeah.
And I go into the police station, fucking head bandaged. I look like the little drummer boy from the Revolution. And I'm like, I want to press charges against these guys. And the cop's like, well, they said that you guys were harassing the girls they were with all night. So, and the girls agreed with them. So you guys are, you know, it's their word against yours, and you're gonna. And it was like, we were literally walked in and got in a fight. Like, how could we have harassed? Not that I'm above, you know, I love harassing the shit out of girls that I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite
It's totally
pastimes.
my thing.
Dude, catcalling?
Yeah.
I can't believe that became a thing.
What are you doing with those dudes, baby? Get a real man.
That's exactly. What fucking human being questions the choice of a woman in front of the man? Mm-hmm. Like, what fucking, oh my God.
So it was very frustrating, and that's why I say for years after that I was like, because everybody just lied. And that's, you know, that was when I really sort of realized that's what you do in a bar fight is you just lie about what happened, and then it becomes, well, he said this, but you said this, and then there's no way to get to the truth, you know?
That's fucking infuriating.
Oh, I guess now probably places would have like
cameras
and stuff.
Now things have changed drastically. Yeah. Like, and I think probably for the good, probably. I mean, I don't know. I've always lived my life a little bit like someone's watching me. Because when I was in college, I got written up as the #1 party animal in the country, and I said a bunch of things to a magazine and a television
I was number
show.
864.
Well, it's still top 1,000.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was up there. You know,
that's a blue chips. That's a blue chip recruit.
I was in the majors. You know,
and I said something to some magazine, and ever since, and then they used it, and it was like very telling. It was like whatever. I told the guy, I go, this is off the record, and
nice.
Yeah, that didn't work, and so cut to I remember being humiliated and feeling horrible, and my dad said, You're not. That'll never happen in your life ever again. Now that this
because
article's
you did
come
it
out,
once,
because you need to be cognizant of how you are representing yourself all the time. And even like, I'm sure I've told this story before, but have you ever done House of Comedy in the Mall of America?
No. In Minnesota?
Yeah.
No.
There's a hotel attached to the mall, and you got to walk through the mall, but sometimes the hotel door closes, and you got to walk out of the mall and then around through the garage and to the very front door of the hotel, which is a pain in the ass. So I go to the door, it's closed, and I hit the button, and the guy says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, can you open the doors?" And he goes, "Are you handicapped?" I was like, "No."
Define handicap.
Yeah. And he goes, "Well, I can't open it if you're not handicapped." And then I go, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm with a guy in a wheelchair. By the way, I'm with nobody." And he goes, "No, you're not." I said, "No, I really am. I'm with a guy in a wheelchair and a blind guy." And he goes, "I don't believe you." I said, "I'm being dead serious." And I go, "Dude, talk to him." So then I get lower to the call button, and I'm like, "Hey, man, can you let us in?" And I'm doing characters. "I can't see you, but I'd appreciate it if you let me in." And so he goes, "I'm not doing it, man. I don't believe you." So then I walk around to the fucking front. I walk out of the mall to the front of the thing. I walk in, and it's the guy behind the desk. And he goes, Are you the guy with the blind guy in the wheelchair?" And I said to him, I go, "Yeah, where are they?" Because I guess I got stuck in the mall, man. And I put it on him. I was like, "Not cool, man. Now they're in the mall, and there's a guy in a wheelchair and a blind guy that are just fucking meandering in the mall." I was like, "Dude," and I was hammered, by the way. So I go to my room. The last day, like I'm checking out on Monday morning, and it's him again. And all the other guys are laughing behind the thing. And the guy goes, "You know we have video. Like we can watch you doing that. Like we." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, we've been watching you do your characters." And I was like, "Motherfucker!" And in my head, I was like, "Don't let that video go out." But then that's the only thing that sucks about this
Viral video.
is like, yeah, I'm sure it would be probably nothing but good for my
Comedian does characters outside door.
And then in my head, I'm like, let's get in front of this. I'll start talking about this on stage. But I don't know. When did you start doing stand up?
I started doing stand-up in 98.
Did you start doing stand-up or improv first?
Improv. I had been doing improv since 47. No, I started doing improv in 1989, actually.
In college?
No, after college. It was like right after I graduated from college. I graduated in 88.
In New York?
I started in New York.
At UCB?
No, this was long before UCB came to town. I actually started with a group called Falling Rock Zone, which was out of Yonkers, New York.
Really?
Yeah, I had I was like, I'm going to be a comedian, but I had no idea how to do it or what that entailed, you know? So for like 4 years, I worked with this short form improv group, and we would perform maybe once a month, you know? And that's not the way to sharpen your instrument. So finally I decided to start my own thing. So I like booked a theater in the city, and I actually put an ad in Backstage, and got a bunch of people to perform with me, and did a thing that ran for 2 months. And out of that, I was hired into a group called Chicago City Limits, which was an off-Broadway show in New York. And I got into their national touring company, and I spent the next 4 years touring the country with them. And then it was like right at the end of that time, so like 96, when UCB came to town, and I started studying with them. And then in 98, I started doing stand-up on my own. The reason I started doing stand-up really was because I got to the point where I was like, I'm really good at improv, but when people come to see improv shows, it's very hard to go. I mean, it's not impossible, but you don't always go like, "Oh, that one guy was really great, and everybody else was lucky to be on stage with him." Whereas
part of your job as an improv
to
is
make
not
everybody else look good. Yeah,
make everyone look good.
Yeah, which not everybody is good at, but you know, I like to think I am good at that. And
that's why I was never good at improv.
Yeah, I know. I mean, stand-ups have a really hard time. You know,
I have a really hard time with improv because I want to be the funniest person.
So I got to that point where I was like, I got to do this so I can just be on stage by myself, and I'll take all the credit and all the blame. And so I did that.
Sweet. When you first did stand up, were you just like, I'll just wing it?
No. I took a class actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
The guy's name, God, I don't remember his name. Steve something or other in the city.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, I always tell people, don't take a class as a stand-up. It's not worth it. Take, you know, improv classes and sketch classes are great.
That was the big debate that I'm sure you were abreast of when the Kyle Cease thing Do you remember that?
Yes.
And was it Matt Besser?
Yes, it was. You're right. I forgot about that.
You're buddies with Besser, right?
I am. Yeah.
And Besser was like, and Kyle Steve's like, it's the same as improv. It's not the same as improv.
It's not at all the same.
I believe that. I believe. I think I agree with you. Stand-up classes, I believe, are pointless.
Yeah.
If it's the way that you need to get into stand-up,
That's what it was for me. Was
that's fine.
going into a classroom. It was like an open mic, except you were paying more money than you would at an open mic.
Yeah.
And what it got me was, I think the class was like 2 weeks long or 3 weeks, twice a week for 3 weeks. So I did 6 open mics, basically. I came out of it going, I am 50 times better than any of the people that are doing this.
Yeah. So
I should go off and start doing real open mics and doing, trying to get booked shows and blah, blah, blah. So it was what I needed, because one of the reasons I stayed doing improv for so long, I think, is the fear of being alone on stage and being the only one responsible.
I would love to be good at. I mean, I'm good at improv, but I'm bad at being in an improv troupe. Like I'm bad at the.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a scene stealer and I'm a line stealer. Like if the line's out there, I won't. I'll run and grab it.
I would have a lot of microaggression against you if you were in my improv.
I'd be interested to take an improv
I'd be
class.
like, what were you thinking when you did that thing?
Maybe I should, this December, I'm staying all December in LA.
Oh,
the
yeah?
whole month I'm not working at all. Maybe I should take like an improv class.
I think you'd enjoy it.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
It would be sucker fun. Because I like
fun, not fun for your classmates, but
I like improving on stage a lot. Like I love improving on stage.
But to me, that's you're talking about when you're doing stand up.
I love not having anything to talk about.
To me, that's a totally different muscle. Like people always go like, well, you've taken so much improv, you must be able to use that in your stand up all the time. And I always feel like it's like saying, well, you've played so much basketball, that must really help you with your baseball. Like, it's two totally different things to me.
Really?
Yeah.
So define the muscles if you can.
Improvising with other people is like really listening to what they're saying and reacting to it and making it make sense. Whereas I feel like when you're improvising as a I guess part of it is when you're doing crowd work, really listening to people and reacting to it and trying to come up with stuff. So in that sense, there is a similarity. But I just feel like it's, to me, it's more when you're doing stand-up, coming up with funny things on the spot out of, off the top of your head, which is just a different skill as far as I'm concerned.
It's, it could, this is going to sound silly, but like, could you take an improv class and learn anything from it right now?
Could I?
Yeah.
Probably. I probably could.
Like, is taking an improv class like taking tennis lessons? Like you're still practicing, so you're just getting better.
I think it would just make you go back to check your fundamentals and go, am I really practicing what I have been preaching for 20 years,
Yeah.
Because I always felt, I haven't taught improv in a couple years, but I always felt when I was teaching improv, it was really helping me with my improv, because I was like thinking about it a lot and explaining why I felt the way I felt about what people were doing.
Yeah.
And then I would apply that on stage.
It's the same with stand-up when you're on the road and you're working with a feature and you can see his lazy habits and you pull him aside and you go, hey, listen, I'm just giving you a heads up. Like, the stuff you're doing it is killing, but you're not getting stronger from it.
Right.
And then you start going, maybe
now, when you're talking about that, are you talking about a feature that you're bringing with you or somebody that's there?
Someone that's there.
Yeah.
Someone that's there, or someone that I've brought people with me that I've given advice. There's this guy, Aaron Kleiber, who is very funny, but and he was destroying it. And I told him, I said, you're getting into a lot of bad habits. Like it's because there is this mindset as a feature on the road is, if I kill hard enough,
I'll get to be a headliner.
They'll make me a headliner next year, and that never happens.
Right.
There's so many things that go into being a headliner that have nothing to do with being fucking funny. That so little of it. So many clubs have never even seen the headliner that's coming to their club do stand up.
Right.
And I just was like, you're going about it the wrong way. The right way to do it, if you want to go about being a good feature, find a guy you can work with who you like his stand-up, and you do your thing, but then help him with his stand-up too.
Right.
Like Matt Fultron and I travel a lot, and he'll sometimes if I'm improvising on stage, he'll just sit in the back and have a beer and listen to me. It's not like it's he can't go anywhere anyway. Like, what's he going to do? Go for a walk? And so just listen to me. And if I say something new or something funny in a way I haven't done it, he'll like pull me aside and write it down and just be like, hey, just giving you a heads up. You said that differently. And then you go, wow, you're valuable to me in a weird way. Like, as opposed to going out and just fucking destroying and being like, okay, great. Now I gotta. I mean,
I haven't done a lot of road work, and I certainly haven't done a lot of road work as a headliner. Like, I would say only maybe 1 or 2 or 3 times, but I did for 4 or 5 months tour as a feature with Mike Birbiglia, and that was exactly what it was. Is that I would just sit and watch him, and then we would talk about his set afterwards, and he would give me stuff on my set too. What was also funny was when we did that, we would show up somewhere, and so we'd be there like Wednesday to Sunday, right? So first show Wednesday night. Local MC would go up, and after that show, Mike would say, look, he'd go to the club and say, look, let's just have Sean do half an hour, and then I'll do my thing. Because all those guys were just the worst.
It's
that's like lowest common denominator comedy across the boards.
It's what it is they want to do well in front of good or well. They want to do
well.
They want to do well in front of Birbiglia and you. So they want to destroy.
But they're doing like eating pussy and and it's just like that doesn't fit. I mean, that doesn't fit
the night.
What Mike is doing, Not that I'm sure Mike doesn't occasionally enjoy pussy snacks,
He just keeps it on the DL. I don't fucking.
He doesn't make his show about that.
But yeah, it's one of those things where you just go like, oh man, if you had just paid a little bit of attention, you could have had a great week. Just go up and do a tight 5, tight 10. That's smart. Do the stuff that you're working on.
Right, because what it does is it fucks up the whole show in a sense by setting that as the bar at the top of the show.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what fucking comedy classes should be is only for working comics. And you go, okay, come in. All you got to do is buy a beer or something for the comic, and you just get like a headliner to come in and like Dave Attell sat me aside. I'm certain I've probably told this, but I'll tell it again. It's like
you haven't told it to me, Bert.
I know, but I always get self-conscious. Right when we had Georgia, I got an offer. I was broke. I had no money. I had this conversation with Leanne yesterday. I had no money, and I had Aaron from the Improv offered to fly me to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and back to Miami for 3 weeks in a row, and I would make $700 a week. And my agent was waiving his percentage, and my manager was waiving his percentage so that I could get like some money because I just had a kid.
Right.
And the weeks were Louis C.K., Dave Attell, and Daniel Todd.
Featuring each time.
I was featuring for all of them. And I worked with Attell, and Attell's been the fucking top of the mountain for me my entire career.
He's amazing.
He's the best comic alive, in my opinion. And all I wanted him to do was say, "You're funny." That's it. No, it's a very big deal, and some guys are very stingy about saying that. You know, there's a lot of guys won't tell you you're funny.
Yeah.
And maybe let me rephrase that. Maybe I'm not funny, and a lot of guys haven't said it to me. But there are guys that I just go, "That's interesting." I say it to fucking everybody.
It's funny. I was thinking about that because I have a very specific memory of you. You and I don't know if you remember this. You and I auditioned for something together years ago at VH1. And I eventually booked it, and then was immediately fired after they started shooting it. And then I didn't see you for like
Never
2
mind the
years.
Yes.
I didn't see you for like 2 years, and I ran into you in a Starbucks out here, and you were like, "Dude, I got to tell you were so fucking funny in that audition."
God damn it, you were.
Which I was like, that was so fucking cool.
No, but you were, and I was. And by the way, the other person that got it was
Daphne
Brogdon. And they replaced you with
Matt Price.
Matt Price. And that I remember doing that audition and going, "Oh, I wouldn't be. I'm not the."
But what's funny is looking back at it when I was fired, or right before I was fired, because we shot like a test episode.
Yeah.
And I know exactly why it didn't work out, because when I was doing the audition with you, I was just loose and fucking around in the room.
Yeah.
When I got on the show, I was writing all these jokes, but then there were other writers on the show who were my friends who were also writing jokes. So I was trying to get everybody's jokes in, including my own, which was like, no, serve yourself in that situation. Don't worry about the writers.
What would have been good for you? Because I ended up doing 2 episodes of it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
What's fascinating about this is I had done. I could not do what you were doing in that room because I couldn't think that quick.
Right.
And I didn't understand how you were thinking that quick. And
But what's funny is before they fired me, this executive came to my dressing room before the second episode, which was really the first episode, the first real episode that we were going to shoot. And he goes, Sean, and see, VH1 didn't hire me. I was hired by the production company. So VH1 was just getting to know who I was. And he was like, Sean, look, we need you to be like a fun guy who's having fun at a party. And I was like, Fred. His name was Fred. I said, Fred, I'm not a fun guy having fun at a party, even when I'm a fun guy having fun at a party. And he was like, well, just do what you can. So thinking back on that, I'm like, that would have been perfect for you.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, I ended up, those were the 2 funniest things I've ever done on television.
Really?
Ever. And they were really good for my, not getting the job was tough on me because I thought I'm perfect for this. And then I went into the room.
You would have been perfect for it.
But you were you were visibly funnier than everyone.
Oh, thanks.
And I remember that, and I went, and I remember walking out going, I fucked that up. And then I was like, I didn't fuck it up. I just couldn't hang. Like I didn't know how to hang. And I remember thinking about that. And they were like, they called me back. They're like, you did a great job. It's just you're not the right guy for the show. We need a guy who's an improv guy who can bounce off other people. And I went, okay. And so, and I'd done enough TV before that I was comfortable doing TV. And they said, we'd love to have you back to do an episode.
Great.
And because I knew Marin and I knew Daphne. I'd worked with Daphne. Daphne had worked on another show with me before that. And so I show up to the thing, and Marin pulls me in his dressing room. He's like, give me everything you got on Daphne. You got to tell me everything. And I was like, why? He's like, she's driving me up the fucking wall. And I was like, really? And then I knew Price because I knew Jason Nash. So I talked to Price, and then I go down. It is. By the way, I go down and I didn't see you, and I went, wait, what happened? And they're like, he got fired. I talked to Kurt Metzger about it. I go, he goes, he got fired. I go, why? He was like, I have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
Like it, and so.
But I know why. Also, what's funny is years later, Marin was like literally within the last couple of years, Marin was like, just so you know, I had nothing against you. I had nothing to do with you being fired. And so immediately now I'm going to torture him every time I see him and go, you got me fired, didn't you?
So I go on, and it was interesting because there were so many notes given to Price and Daphne.
Oh,
there was
God.
so much heavy lifting given to them that they were having a very hard time being funny because they were trying to remember everything to do.
Right.
And I didn't have to do anything. And I remember thinking,
So you could just fuck around.
and I thought that's how you handled the audition.
Right.
Is that you just
That's what
fucked
it was.
around. And
Yeah.
I went, oh.
Right.
You know what? The better of this job is being the guy that gets to fuck around.
Yeah.
And in that thing, they did. So one of the things they did was, I'm going to get the guy's name exactly because they would. It's called Never Mind's Buzzcocks. It was a game show, but it was like celebrity game show. So it was kind of weird.
It was a weird show.
It was a weird show, but it was very successful in the UK. And so they'd bring out a celebrity that no one has seen in a very long time.
Right.
The guy for us was the lead singer of Loverboy. So
No idea.
so they put 4 guys. I'm going to find Loverboy. I'm going to find Mike Reno was his name.
Of course
So
it was.
they said
Good old Mike.
we got to figure out which one's Loverboy. And so they're all standing there, 4 guys. One of them's Mike Reno, 3 are not. We don't know what Mike Reno looks like anymore.
Right.
And they're all standing there, and they're like, Daphne's team, you guys get to go first. And they're like, I what they're doing is they're assessing him. They're like, well, you figure Loverboy was in. They were big in '86.
How old are these guys?
How old are these guys? This guy looks too old. Right. This guy looks too young. Well, you figured he partied a lot. So look at their eyes. Look at their eyes. None of it's funny.
So they really were like fun people having fun at a party.
Yeah, it was not. It was not. None of it's funny. Mm-hmm. And the guys are all kind of looking off at the audience as if they're in a lineup and they can't make eye contact with us.
Right.
And I go, guys, we're going about this the wrong way. And they're like, really? I go, yeah, watch this. I go, hey, Mike. And one guy turned his head. and it got the biggest fucking laugh. And I fucking made it to the next, and I picked Mike. And I go, that's Mike Reno, and we win. So the executives come up to me and they're like, hey, can you stay one more day and shoot another episode?
Nice.
And I was like, I felt so redeemed in the fact that I was okay, I figured out how to be funny on TV. Don't be prepared.
You were like the Nazis at the end of The Great Escape.
What was that?
Do you ever see that movie with Steve McQueen?
No.
Oh, okay. It's a great movie. It's the movie where he's locked up in the cooler with the ball, bouncing the ball against the wall. It's the one where he jumps the barbed wire fence on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But all these English guys escape from a German POW camp, and they're getting away. They all split up. They're going to different parts of Nazi Germany. They're getting away, and two guys are on a bus. They both speak fluent German, and the Nazis come on the bus, and they're like speaking to them in German, let's see your passport, documents, and they have fake documents. They give them to him, whatever. The Nazis are satisfied. They start to walk away, and then one of the Nazis turns back and says in English and goes, have a nice trip, or something like that. And the guy goes, thank you. And they're like, we got you.
Oh, motherfucker. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was the one, because I just gotten, I'd been on a show that got canceled. I then had a pilot that didn't get picked up. Mm-hmm. And then I had bombed on a showcase, and I went out for this, was like the next thing, and I didn't get it, and I was visibly bad. And the things I learned from that was, don't, like, my ego is bruised, because I remember in the room doing this. I remember you
started crying. I remember that.
I remember looking at you with my mouth open, going, "How the fuck is he doing this? Like, you're so natural, you're so confident." And I was like, I was auditioning. I wasn't having fun. I was auditioning.
Right. That's the key. Like, if you're auditioning, you're fucked. If you're just doing it, and that's literally that audition was the only time I've ever felt like that in an audition ever.
You murdered it, and I remember running into you and thinking, this whole time I failed, and I went, no. That guy just fucking killed. I need to celebrate how fucking good he is and take a look at it and go, how do I apply that to my life? I haven't until recently, I'm being dead serious, ever applied that to my life. I was a guy that would go into an audition, and I was really bad at, if I could go back and start this career all over again, and I'd give advice to a guy coming in, do it your way from day one.
Right.
Fuck whatever you think.
Don't care.
Don't think whatever the fuck the casting director is looking for.
Right.
Because if you do what the casting director is looking for, you'll be doing that for fucking 5 years.
Right.
You'll be doing an impression of what the casting directors would have liked. I really fucked up a lot.
Well, and what was great about me getting that job was that it was like, that was my first thing that I really booked. So it was my big break. My career was really on the way then,
Yeah.
And I was teaching at UCB, and I had to go to all my classes and say, I'm really sorry, you guys, but I've gotten my big break, so I'm going to be taking off. I'm in show business now.
Like Kevin Meaney, I'm going to be on Saturday Night Live next year.
And then immediately fired and was like, could I come back and teach the rest of those classes?
How did they fire you?
That's actually a funny story in and of itself. First of all, we taped that episode, and I come off stage, and nobody's around. Like, the hallways are empty in the studio. And what I found out later was that Sebastian Bach was getting everybody high, but there already must have been something in the air. Like, you know how there's, like, the one guy, and everybody's like, I don't know if this guy's gonna, I don't know. And then, so then you don't want to be around that guy. He's like the Jonah on the ship, Yeah. So I must have already been the Jonah on the ship. So I come off stage. There's nobody around. I just was like, okay, I guess I'll go home. So I went home. That was on Saturday. Sunday morning, my manager at that time was Carrie Hoffman, the owner of Stand Up New York.
I always mix him up with Jeff Singer.
Well, very, very different temperaments. But Carrie, of course, better known for his Frank Sinatra impersonation than for his managing skills. So I have this experience on Saturday. It feels really weird to me.
If it feels weird, it is weird.
And they've already said, like, we need some of this from you. We need you to do more of this. So I know there's something up. So Carrie, on Sunday morning, I'm not home, calls and leaves me a message. And his message is this. You know, and Carrie is like, as he himself says, he's like, I'm an old Jew from Queens. So he sounds kind of like Jackie, what's that guy's name?
Jackie Mason.
Jackie Mason, yeah. He's like, Sean, it's Carrie Hoffman. I have terrible news for you. Terrible, terrible news. But I don't want to leave it on your machine, so please call me back as soon as possible. So I knew immediately, like, I knew what it was.
In your head, you're like, please say he has cancer. Please say he has cancer. Please say he has cancer. Is it me or you?
It's like, what is he going to think that I'm going to think it is? Like, I found out your mother is dying. Like, you know.
I have terrible, terrible, terrible news.
But I don't want to leave it on your machine. It was so great.
That is fucking. And so then you called and he just said, yeah, you're fired?
Yeah, that was it.
That fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I did an episode with Sebastian Bach. I ended up getting high with Sebastian Bach.
Of course.
I ended up getting Tiffany was on that episode, and so was Joey McIntyre.
Amber Thiessen?
No, Tiffany.
Oh, just Tiffany.
Tiffany. And Joey
what
McIntyre.
Did she say? Let the music play, or what was her?
Let the music play.
Was that her? I don't know if it was.
Get away.
Yeah.
And Sherrod Small, me. Sherrod Small, me, Joey McIntyre, Sebastian Bach, and Tiffany. And Molly Culver. She might have been on the one before.
I don't know who
and like
that is.
hanging around. Molly Culver. She was on Pam Anderson's Spy
VIP.
Uh-huh. And Molly Culver is still friends with Daphne Brogdon to this day.
Oh, really? Which means you're still friends with Daphne if you know that.
Daphne Brogdon has a show on cooking called Daphne's Dishes, and I used to hook up with Daphne.
Oh, there you
so
go.
I hooked up with Daphne. Daphne was my experience of Don't Shit Where You Eat.
Uh-huh.
We were on a TV show together. We hosted it together, and literally
while you were doing the show, you hooked up.
Oh, first week.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
So we started hooking up right away, and like spend the night at each other's houses, and it was like, and then I started hooking up with someone else. Like we started not hooking up, and then we still, it was very bad.
The show was weird.
It was very weird, and then everyone wanted to play this sexual tension, and it didn't work well, but I still
and that's going to be a movie with Will Ferrell in it coming soon.
Yeah, and so. But I don't know how we got on this. Anyway,
you were going to tell me about what Attell said to you. Attell took you aside and said,
"It's a boring story."
No. I want to hear it because I actually like to hear those kind of things.
Attell said to me I first walk in. We did 2 shows Thursday, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, 2 shows Sunday. He's selling out like crazy. It's the height. I'm sure there's been higher points, but
this is during.
It is on the massive way up during Insomniac,
right?
And I had just been on Last Comic Standing 2. I had just been profiled, and that was when like 13 million people watched that. So I go out
back when TV was TV.
Fuck. And so I go out. When are networks just going to go, hey guys, we lost it?
I think they've already done that to a certain extent.
Like, why even cancel anything?
Yeah.
Just to put it all up there like the internet. Do it with TV.
We got 4 people last night, so we're doing well.
It's better than none.
Yeah.
We started leaving a comment section. You should hear the way I've deconstructed making TV
really?
Just make it the lowest common denominator so that fucking just stick around, just watch, please, just watch. I swear to God, I'll eat a goat stick. So
this fall on NBC,
Dave Attell says I go out the first show. I come out and people know who I am, so I'm already murdering.
Right.
And I'm doing a lot of the jokes that I'd done on the show, which is a big deal. And so I do 15 destructive. Get off stage. He's like, how are they? And I said, they're great. And he's like, okay. I was like, you're gonna fucking do great. So he goes on. He murders. Comes off. Doesn't say anything. Second show, I go on. I do it even tighter, faster, harder. I get off and he goes, how are they? I said, they're great. He's like, okay, you're going to fucking kill. Go out. He doesn't even hang out. Doesn't even speak to me. Just leaves, goes to his hotel room. Next day come in, I'm like, I'm going to fucking destroy. He's going to have to say, he's going to have to hear the laughter and say, you're funny. So I come out. I do it literally that 15 minutes. I do it in fucking 14:59. I mean, it's so perfect. come off, and he's like, okay.
Time-wise, it's perfect.
Like, and destroying. And he goes, all right, we get it. You're funny. Now, how about you tell a new joke? And I'm like, what? And he goes, I've been watching all your fucking shows, and it's like the same shit. Is that what you're going to do? And I was like, no. He's like, do you have more material? Is that it? Is that all you got? Like, real, like... And I was like, no, I've got a lot.
Microaggression.
He's like, why wouldn't you tell the other jokes too? He's like, are you scared? And I was like, no. And he's like, can you write? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, and then he goes on stage, destroys, and I go and watch him, and I realize he hasn't been doing the same act every time at all, let alone has he been doing the same joke the same way. He's finagling jokes, and he's reworking jokes, and he's putting different tags at the different ends, and he's working his set. I get off, and he's like, can I give you some advice? And I was like, please. He's like, you're funny, but if you're just going to do the same act over again, I'm not going to watch you. Because if you'd like to write and work on your craft, I'll watch you, and then, we can talk about it. And I was like, that's all I want. That's all I fucking want is you to accept me and tell me some ideas about what I'm doing wrong. And he's like, you're never going to get this opportunity again to travel around and no one gives a fuck how you do.
Right.
I said, what? And he goes, no one
As
cares.
a feature.
He's like, no one's watching you. You're not going to lose the job. As long as I say you stay, you stay.
Right.
You're not going anywhere. So how about you write? And I was like, yeah. And so I literally looked at featuring that day 100% different, and all I would do is write featuring. And it was like I featured for a full year after that, and at the end of the year I started headlining. And
you were ready.
And when I started headlining, I was like, I probably wasn't totally ready, but like at the end of the year, I was like, oh my God, and now I learned how to write on stage, and now I know how to, and it was like the best advice ever given to me. And I was like, but it's amazing, like Dave Attell would say one joke that he liked, and I would, as soon as he said that, I was like, I'll be saying that every fucking show for the rest of my fucking life.
Right.
It was a joke, I just watched Beat Street, and when I was a kid, I watched Beat Street, and so I thought, that's what I'll do, is I'll tag. I'm going to take part of that movie and incorporate it into my gated community. So I got a can of spray paint, and then right where it said Faircloth Estates, I just shook it up and went, and I'm out writing my name, and then I go, fuck, I'm the only Bert in this neighborhood. And so I wrote under it, sucks dick. And Attell's like, that's a great joke. And I was like, oh, really? And I told it every fucking time I go on stage. I don't know.
Yeah, but I feel like that's something I've never really done. I did that, like I said, I was with Birbiglia for 4 or 5 months, and I did that to a certain extent during that time.
Yeah.
But to have that opportunity, that's where you really grow as a comic. And, I mostly do shitty bar shows around LA, and it's really hard in a 7-minute set. Oh. And I also, my own ego gets in the way because I'm like, I can't not do well in front of these people when really what your attitude should be is like, who cares? I'm not getting paid. They're not paying to see the show. Who cares?
But you always have that in your head. You have that lottery ticket feeling of like, what if?
Right.
What if Will Ferrell's there?
Right.
And he just comes up and he's like, I got a movie. You're fucking hilarious.
Right.
That's the thing that fucking sucks about LA.
Yeah.
Is that there is this, like, I go up one night and it's a sold out show, and I'm like, I do not give a fuck. And it's at the Improv, and I'm like, I'm going to fuck around, and I'm going to do all new jokes, and that's what this heart's about. And I'm literally like, good. So I got my notebook out, and I'm like flipping through it, and fucking Steve Byrne walks up behind me. He's like, do your A shit. And I was like, what? And he's like, Vince Vaughn's in the audience. I'm like, the one guy you want to impress. Like, for me, I really think his...
Well, and you always want to impress Steve Byrne.
Yeah. I want Steve to...
Steve Byrne took me on the road a couple times when I was first starting out. He was very nice to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Steve's
very different types of acts.
Very, yeah. Steve's a really sweet guy, and he really does, like he wants people to he like wants to share the road with people.
Right.
I'm like that sometimes, but
he scared me though, because he would be driving and then he'd also be looking through his giant volume of CDs at the same time, trying to decide what music to put on. I'd be like, Steve, eyes on the road, please.
I don't want to drop a microaggression, but would you want to do more road work?
I'm at the point now. I mean, yes, absolutely. And in fact, I have sort of this fantasy that I'm going to go on the road for like 2 or 3 months at some point in the next year or two. The problem is now I've started writing for TV and making.
You want to know a small for Mr. Pickles?
Yeah,
yeah. I am hopefully working with a guy who did some animation for Mr.
cool.
Pickles. We're doing an animated series for Comedy Central.
Awesome.
Not series. Let me rephrase that. We're doing some shit.
Right.
And so, I saw that, and part of his reel was a Mr. Pickles episode, and I was fucking laughing.
Which episode? Do you remember?
It's not even an episode. I'm sure it's just a sizzle
clip. Yeah.
It's a clip. It's Mr. Pickles, and he fucking killed the thing I'm on.
It's the craziest. It's like taking drugs watching that show.
Tell everyone what it is.
Mr. Pickles is a show for Adult Swim. It's an 11.5-minute show, but we like to say that it's really a 22-minute show crammed into 11.5 minutes
because it moves quickly.
It's so fucking fast. But it's basically Lassie. I mean, Mr. Pickles is like Lassie. He's just a dog who lives with an all-American family. But what the family doesn't know is that Mr. Pickles worships Satan and is a serial killer. So he's always up to some sort of mischief of murdering people. And the grandfather of the family knows that Mr. Pickles does all this stuff, but everybody just thinks the grandpa is just a senile, crazy person, so they don't listen to him.
I love the way the show is, I guess, edited but it's very. That's one thing I said to him when I first talked to the guy. I was like, dude, I love the transitions. Like, it moves so quickly.
Yeah,
it's seamless, and it's seamless in like a perfect way. It really is.
Will Carsola is one of the two creators, and he does all the direction and the editing himself.
You do a voice on there too, right?
I do a bunch of voices. Yeah. I was the head writer, and what's great about that, aside from being the fucking head writer of a TV show, is also that when we are working on scripts in the room, the script is up on the monitor, and I'm like, okay, let's read through the scene. And so I'll read through the scene out loud, doing all of the voices myself, like not casting it or anything.
Yeah.
So then if those guys, the two guys who created the show, hear a voice that I'm doing that they like, then they go, okay, we'll just have you do that in the show. So I've gotten to do a bunch of voices in the show, which is awesome.
That's great.
Really fun.
I always think working for Adult Swim. I used to have a friend who was a guy that we partied with a couple times. He lived in Atlanta. Adult Swim's out of Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
He lived in Atlanta. I forget his name.
It's a TNT, Turner Broadcasting Company. So,
and he was. Me, him, and this guy Chris Gillen went and watched Tim and Eric live at like on at like the Palladium or in it was not the Palladium. It was right near. My brain is fucking dead. It's on Santa Monica at like wherever Motley Crue used to do shows at. It was in that place. We went and watched them live.
I've never seen Motley
And
Crue.
it's not Dan Pasternak, but it's someone like that. And I remember we were pitching a show called White Gorilla to him, an animated series about this silverback gorilla who moves to LA to become an actor. And he lives with a guy, and it's just and the White Gorilla is completely oblivious to anything. Like anything that like that microaggressions, he still doesn't understand racism. So like he had to learn everything. So everything, like the fact that he could walk and talk's fine, but he would literally like he meets his first black person, and like so we ended up doing shorts for Comedy Central.
Cool.
But we pitched it to him, and he was like, "Yeah, that's not weird enough for us." And I went, "Wait, a gorilla that lives there?" And he goes, "Can the gorilla live in a mustache?" I remember going, "Huh?" And he was like,
well, it's interesting because Mr. Pickles, there's a lot of weird stuff on the show. And I feel like me coming in, what I have really brought and tried to keep is a more grounded sense of reality so that the weirdness all kind of somehow makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that is that dynamic between what the creators came up with, this dog who has a lair underground and has a pet gimp that is dressed up in a leather, gimp suit and barks like a dog and crawls around on all fours. And this dog loves pickles for some reason and gets a pickle whenever he's a good boy. And yet somehow it all sort of a little bit makes sense,
Did they bring you in? Did they bring you in and be like, can you help us figure this out?
Well, what happened was they made an 11-minute pilot for Adult Swim, and it did very well. And Adult Swim was like, let's try a 22-minute pilot. So these guys had never written anything like that before.
Yeah.
So they brought me in and a bunch of other people in to sort of, after they had written their 22-minute pilot, to say like what's working, what's not working, whatever. And ultimately it just didn't pan out. And Adult Swim was like, let's stick with the 11 minutes. But they asked me to come in and run the show. So
That's great.
yeah, it's been really fun. It's literally like one of the best things that's ever happened to me. But what that's meant is when I'm working on that show, it totally takes away from...
It takes up all your time.
Not just stand-up, but improv. Like, I usually do AskCat every Saturday and Sunday night at UCB, and I can't even do that because I'm working... The good thing about Adult Swim is they pay less, but you work more. So I'm working like 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for the time that we're writing that.
It's like the Louis C.K. project. Like, you have to do what you want.
But... You
Yeah.
make sacrifices.
You make sacrifices, but it's your.
But I have been talking about going on the road for a while. Like I have my own. I have a podcast with a couple other people, and I've put it out there on the podcast, and people have been very generous because I could never. I'm not at the point where I could go like, I want to do all these improvs and all these funny bones and all these, because nobody knows who the fuck I am. But to do like a DIY tour is sort of, I think, well within my reach, and I would not have a problem doing that. Like, it wouldn't be a money-making thing. It would just be, I would like to get out there and really hone my next batch of material, which I think you can only really do by going on the road for a while.
I think you have to. I think my feelings are, for me, it's interesting because there was always the group of comics that were like, well, yeah, you could. I'm gonna say this incorrectly, by the way. So if I start saying it incorrectly, stop me. But meaning, like, if I'm literally using the actual wrong words.
Okay.
But there were guys who thought, well, yeah,
Stop.
this is like the UCB comics. The guys that did stand up at UCB couldn't go out and do the road because they're insulated,
Right.
And then
It's a different audience.
It's and that, which is partly true. Louis C.K. said it once. Why would I do stand up at UCB when I could go to do the road? I need strangers to laugh.
Yeah.
But here's the opposite of that, and this is what I'll say, is that getting strangers to laugh forms a lot of very bad habits
Yes.
that the UCB shakes out of you instantly.
Absolutely. So it's like finding the balance of those two things.
Finding the balance, and I believe, and I wish that number one, I wish I was in LA more. Number two, I wish I looked more. I wish I had maybe at a younger age spent more time there so that I felt comfortable there to go do stand up there. That's also it.
But I honestly, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Well, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
You can easily
Totally
get over there.
But
you're totally right about the insulation. Like Patton said that to me once back in the green room. Like I was like, same thing. I was like, what advice do you have for whatever? And he's like, do these shows. They're great. You have fun. The audience loves you. Whatever. But then go do the improv. Go to the Laugh Factory. Go to the store, because those are the places that will make your comedy bulletproof. Because nobody knows you, nobody cares, nobody gives a shit who you are in those places, and you have to be fucking funny when you go there.
Well, you earn, like, people go, whoa, he's a UCB darling. You earn that.
Right.
You don't get that just by hanging out in the green room. You earn it by going on stage, and the people that go there, the people that frequent there, end up enjoying you. And you end up, you're allowed to take chances. The same way I'm allowed to take chances when I say go to, like, DC, because that's my market that I've been best.
Is that
at
where you started?
No. This just I randomly, not randomly. There's a radio show, Elliot in the Morning, that is probably the number one radio show. I'm gonna say, in a lot of markets, there's nothing like that anymore.
No.
There's where you go in, you do his show, and you sell out all your shows because everyone fucking listens to Elliot.
Right.
There's Tampa, Philly, DC, where that still exists.
There's two guys in the Midwest, isn't there?
Bob and Tom.
Bob and Tom.
Bob and Tom's still like that, I think. It used to be you did Bob and Tom. Like, Tosh would fly out of his way to go do Bob and Tom, and he'd do.
No, I mean, that's Mike Birbiglia was big with those.
Oh,
guys.
Birbiglia, yeah, he did my private diaries or something.
Yeah.
And he would redo diary readings. I mean, Birbiglia is, I don't think, gets the respect from comics. I'm sure he does, and I'm sure he doesn't give a fuck. But, like, he really fucking came up with some very innovative ways to run his career.
Oh, he's a genius. He's a genius. He's a super funny comic, but he's also brilliant at how to build a career.
Can I tell you, if Mike Birbiglia, if you're listening to this, can you come over to my house and just help me
give us some pointers?
Just help me fucking guide it. Like, if you were me, what would you do? Because, like, I got some really great stories. I know Ira Glass. How come I'm not fucking making movies? But it's because his work ethic and the way he looks at fucking doing things.
Yeah.
He really is like, He's
amazing.
And he's fearless on stage in that if he's got a new story, he'll tell it. And if it doesn't work, okay, I'm going to tell another one.
Well, and what was really interesting, again, when I was on the road with him, was that he would start on Wednesday with, like, just some random observations related to stuff that he had just experienced and then to stuff that was in his life. And by Sunday night, he would have a tight new 15 minutes of material that just came out of being in the moment on stage on Wednesday night, you know?
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I see it people all the time. Anytime anyone brings up anything sleepwalking, I'm like, well, hold on, have you heard Michael Brickley's story? Like, there's no way to talk about sleepwalking and not literally say, have you seen his movie? Have you read his books? Have you read his, like, is he his one-man play with fucking on Broadway? Did you see him on The View? Like, he's very inspirational. One time I saw him, he was in Tampa, and I happened to be in Tampa shooting something, and I walked in, I said, I want to meet him. Like, I never met him. I mean, I met him in New York, like, in passing, but I never really.
You know what? I think I was fucking there when that happened.
I think you were.
I think I was because I definitely was in Tampa with him at the Tampa Improv once.
And I think
yes.
I
remember that.
And I fucking rolled up and I was like, and he was so the way I wish I could be. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so many things. I'm not saying I'm a phony about things, but like if you walk in my house, if you walk into my green room and you're a comic, I'll be like, oh, hey man, what's up? How you doing? And I'll like get out of my chair and be like,
right.
And then I'll put on an act to make you feel comfortable.
Right.
When really, quite honestly, I'd rather just sit there and be comfortable enough with who I am to just go.
He's very zen.
Yeah. I walked in, I was like, hey man, I'm Bert. And he was like, hi. And I was like, I'm a and by the way, I hadn't planned my sentences out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm a comic. And he was like, cool, do you want to do a guest set? And I was like, no, I'm a comic. Like, I just wanted to say hi. Like, I'm in town. And I was like, what the fuck am I saying? What am I should have said what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And he was just very, like, confused. He was like, oh. And then it turned out my poster was next to my face.
Yes.
And I was like, that's actually me.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, good for you, man. And I was like, motherfucker, none of this worked out the way I thought it would. And so I just walked out. I watched his set. And then we had to shoot the next day, so I left. But yeah, he's an inspiration. Like, a lot of guys I know that have worked with him always come back like,
I got some good cigars down there in Tampa.
I had some really good cigars.
Yeah.
I rolled my own and smoked one of my own. And the guy was like, what do you want from it? And I was like, I want to feel it. I want to feel a buzz. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay. And he rolled me the fucking stiffest, the strongest cigar. And we smoked it while rolling another one. And like
nice.
So we just sat there like old Cubans. Just is that microaggression?
What are you anyway? What are you?
I think a grassroots tour would be great. Who would you go with? Would you want to do it with?
I don't know. That's what I have to figure out, and that's tricky for me because I'm like, there are so many people. It's hard. I'm in this weird position where people I came up with who are doing well are doing too well to ask them to do something like that. And then there are people who I didn't come up with who are still coming up. And I'm like, I don't know who of those people, A, I would trust to come with, B, I like their comedy enough, and C, I would want to spend that much time with. You know?
I think it's always like that. It's always like that. Like I go, I remember saying to someone, I was like, I want to do a tour bus tour. And they were like, that sounds fucking great. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah. And then you say the names you want to do it with. I think it was like me, Tom Segura, Ari Shaffir, Neil Brennan. And they're like, yeah, but none of us are really like selling. Like, we're all selling kind of the same group of people.
Right.
And I mean, maybe it's a little different, but like none of us are selling theaters enough to warrant like
this much money.
A tour bus.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, well, if we get Rogan or Bill Burr on there, I go, yeah, but then we're just taking money from them because they could do it on their own.
And they don't need that.
Yeah. We're like, yeah, what the fuck are we trying? Like, it's really difficult to do where you get a group of people, because you do have the people like, that you came up with that are above you, and you're like, well, those are my peers.
Right.
They just happen to be selling theaters on their own.
Right.
It's been problematic. I tried to do I do this Call and Sick to Work show where I go in, I do radio from like 7 to 10. I drink on radio, and then I go right to the club and do a show at 11. And
God!
And I tell on the radio, I'm like, everyone calling sick to work. Come
right to the club.
Go to the club. And so people
hilarious.
Literally turn their car around, go drive straight to the club.
Day drinking.
Clubs wide open at 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
Start drinking, waiting for me to show up, and then I show up and we do it.
That's brilliant.
It's problematic.
It's unhealthy.
There's a lot of people who, when they decide to quit, not go to work and start drinking, that is part of their personality.
Right.
And so it's like fucking a shit show sometimes.
Yeah.
Where it's like just people hammered, and then sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes you get people waiting in line and they're fucking pumped up. And I was like, I want to do a Calling Sick to Work tour. I want to do like 13 dates, start in Tampa, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, Atlanta, like go all the way, work all the way up to DC, and then end in DC. And I was like, I want a tour bus. I'm like just drunk in my like in the man cave, like typing it out. I want a tour bus. I'm gonna. You know what? This is how it's done. The idea above the comic.
You got your little umbrella drink next to you while you're writing all this.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't even fucking start. I used to. This is what a phony I am. I used to throw in a Hawaiian shirt when I'd write because I wanted to be like Hunter S. Thompson. Fucking phony I am. And so I literally like this is what it is. Tour idea, concept above the talent. Concept first, talent second. Don't go and say talent's going to sell the tour. The concept will sell the tour. People hear the idea and go, "Well, that sounds fun." And so I started writing out the plan. I got it. I get Tom Skura, get Christina Pajinski, get Neil Brennan, get Al Madrigal. I started like, all right. And these guys don't have to do the whole tour. They hop on and off. They fly in when they can't. They can't do it. And the beauty is we don't do weekends because we only do Monday through Friday.
No work on the weekends.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is fucking great. And then I like call my manager and she's like, okay, do you know how much a tour bus costs? She's like, this is a horrible idea. She's like, you could save money by Ubering. And I was like, are you fucking serious? She's like, I'm not even joking. It would be less expensive for you to Uber your way to DC than to get a fucking tour bus. And I was like, whoa, well, there's an option.
Yeah.
So
the Uber tour.
But yeah, the Uber tour. But maybe that's not a bad idea. But it's you're right about that. Is that it is hard to find talent to do it.
No, I have a map at home. You know, when I've put this out on the podcast, people have emailed me and said I'd be interested in helping you, whatever. You know, I'd love for you to come to where I am. It's not, you know, club owners or theater owners or anything like that. It's just like a group of guys in Bellevue, Washington, or
Bellevue,
whatever.
Washington is a great place to do stand up.
Yeah, well, these guys, I got some fans up there, and they're dying for me to come up there, but. You know, it's like figuring out, like you said, it's figuring out what's the hook, what's the thing that's going to sell people on coming to the show. Because what I wouldn't want to do, and it could easily turn into this, what I wouldn't want to do is go, I'll come up there and then go to, and I'm just in a bar with a group of people playing pool next to where I'm performing, and it's just like basically an open mic, except I'm there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's a lot to be said about the idea of doing these grassroots tours. You get a lot more money than doing the clubs. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, one-nighters in general are not a bad shake.
Yeah.
Like, they really turn out, and especially through podcasting. Podcasting's really changed not only the dialogue between comics and fans, like comics and audiences, but, like, the concept of touring. I mean, and I keep saying Tom Segura, but, like, it's only because I'm really good friends with him. His stand-up, like, I don't even know if he does clubs anymore.
Oh, really?
Like, he just is doing one-nighters, and he's doing them at rock venues.
Where people will come and see him because they've heard his podcast.
People come and see him, and it's him and his wife. They'll do, like, a live podcast at a venue in Dallas one night, and then do stand-up the next night, and it's the same people coming out for two different things. Mm-hmm. It's like, it really is. I mean, I look at I came up with I have to pay tribute to fucking Benson because I came up with the Calling Sick to Work show because he has a 420 show. And I thought, how fucking genius. You're getting the club when they don't have business normally.
He's doing it at 4:20 in the afternoon?
He does it at 4:20 on Sundays.
Nice.
So, like, he'll do a 4:20 show, not every Sunday, but, like when I'll be on the road, he'll be like, this is the way he just lives his life. You're in D.C.? I'll be in D.C. I'm going to do a 4:20 show when you're there. And then I was in San Francisco. He did a 4:20 show and a midnight show on 419 to celebrate 420. He sold out both of them. I didn't sell a fucking ticket. Like, he sold out two shows bookending my show at odd hours when everyone's supposed to come to the fucking club. Everyone's like, "Oh, there was a show at 7:30. I didn't know about that one. When did you guys start doing them at 7:30?
What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I think Benson's a really inspirational guy.
But he's a guy who, and this has always been my problem also, and I think you've done this too. It's like you have who you are as like what you're going for as a comic, you know?
Yeah.
Like your thing is you're the call in sick to work guy, or what? I mean, that's not really your thing, but like.
Yeah. I'm a fun
party guy.
I'm a fun party. When you come to my show, you should walk out smiling.
The fun guy who's having fun at a party,
right?
Yeah, and Doug is the guy who gets high, and and I'm like, I've never been able to really, it's like I'm the guy who reads too much, or what?
It's like, well, no, that's a very accurate statement, but it is a market of people. It's like the people that are. I'll say this guy's name only because I like him and he knows I like him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to sound like I like.
You're
the people that go to
criticizing.
Todd Barry's show do not go to my show.
Right.
Right now, Todd Barry's like, that's not an insult; it's a compliment. It's not an insult; it's a compliment. Like I did a weekend right after, like I came in and did a one-nighter in Tennessee, in Nashville, after Michael Ian Black. Very different audiences.
Yeah, of
like
course.
even the club said, we don't think any of those people have ever been to our club.
Right.
And I went, oh yeah, like it's like Jimmy Kimmel showed up in late night and had a brand new group of people that weren't watching late night.
Right.
Like, and so it's I think you're right. Is you got to find
you got to be like the guy who does this. Like I like people who do this, so I want to go see a guy who does this and talks about doing this. And I always the worst show I ever had was a midnight show at Stand Up New York, and it was myself, 3 comics.
Yeah.
Myself, Lisa Lampanelli, and Jim Norton.
Okay.
And I went last.
Oh, why? Was this when Lisa Lampanelli was wearing the gold rings and the medallions?
I don't even remember.
There was a point that Lisa Lampanelli was laughable to watch on stage.
Oh, really?
She's still very funny, but she would go up with a Mercedes emblem,
Oh,
like
God.
a big one, and then her fingers covered in rings, and she would be like the hip hop, like, yo, brothers.
But it was just like, so Lisa Lampanelli goes up and talks about how much she loves big black cock.
Yeah.
Jim Norton goes up and talks about how he loves murdering hookers and storing their heads in his closet. And then I go up and I'm like, guys, what's up with time travel? And the audience was just like,
I'm obsessed with fucking time travel. I'm obsessed with fucking time travel. I've told this on stage, but I'll tell you, Isla, my youngest, she's a little out there. She's an interesting kid. She's dyslexic, but she's got a very weird brain.
How old?
9. Very interesting brain. Like,
so she's a real person at this point.
She's a real person.
She's not just like a little.
Oh, she's a real person.
Yeah.
So my wife and her friends go to Europe, and I'm staying with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the road a lot, so like doing TV or I'm on the road a lot, and so I'm staying with the kids for the first time. Like I'm really staying with them, and I'm connecting with them. Like I don't do that often. That sounds really horrible, but it's fucking part of the gig. So
you seem like a bad guy.
And so Isla yells in from her bedroom, "Dad, I need to talk to you." So I come into her bedroom, and she's in a bunk bed. So I'm like eye level with her by standing. And she's laying in her bed with her back. And she just flips up on her side like this. She goes, "Do you believe in time travel?" By the way, I'm obsessed with time travel. So literally I am pot committed right away. I'm like, I fucking do. I do. And she was like, "Do you think it's possible that I came from the future and told myself a secret?" And I was like, yes. And then she just rolls on her back. She goes, "That's all I wanted to know." And I was like, "Baby, what's the secret?" But like, I love time travel. I love time. My wife believes there's 2 types of people: people who like time traveling movies and people who don't like time traveling movies. And I am in the first group.
Yeah. Well, if it's done well, it's great.
What name a bad time travel movie?
Time Cop.
Which one's that?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Okay, nailed it. Time Cop.
Well, I'll tell you who doesn't like time travel is people who like watching Lisa Lampanelli do big black cock jokes and Jim Norton doing murdering hookers jokes. I mean, it was literally like, you remember those shows at midnight at Stand Up New York? It's an hour, so you do 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm up there for 20 minutes. Those guys they're both great comics. They both fucking killed the whole time they're up there. I go up there. It is packed room. So 200 people in Stand Up New York. it is silent the entire time I'm up there. Just silent. Nobody heckled, nothing. I finally get to the end of my set. I'm doing my last joke. I go, well, I'm going to do one more thing and get out of here. And just from the way back of the room, very low, but audible enough that everybody in the room can hear it, you just hear a guy go, thank God. And I just go, I'm with you, sir. I'm with you.
I wish that more people respected, like, I wish there was a group of people that liked good comics who thought. Like, you know what I mean? Like comics that in and of that moment is what is brilliant and beautiful. Not to say that there's nothing wrong with, like, I don't mind a guy who's got a prepared act, who does 1 hour of the same exact stuff, but a guy who when you saying that in the moment, that's one of the funniest things you're going to hear all fucking night. I'm with you, sir.
Just silent. Like, I'm just up there. And you know, luckily it was late enough, you know, I'd been doing it long enough that I did not come off stage and feel particularly badly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, early on in my career, I would have been like, I suck, I'm horrible, whatever. But I came off stage, and I was just like, well, I held my 20 minutes. I did my 20 minutes. I didn't complain. I didn't get mad at them. I didn't blame them. I just did my jokes, and they were not interested, you know? And that's fine.
I came off this stage like probably maybe a month ago now, but and I had a mediocre set at best, like at the store, a mediocre set at best. And Rogan and Bill Burr had gone up before and after me and just destroyed. Both of them destroyed. Bookended me. Bill destroyed, Joe destroyed, and I was really down. And I was like, fuck, man, like, God damn it, why I had the same audience. And then I'm laying in bed. I'm like, oh, they're the two best comics working.
Right.
Like, maybe that's it. Maybe you just happen to be friends with the greatest ones doing it. And don't just because you're friends with them doesn't mean that you should be as funny as them.
Those guys are pretty good.
Yeah. Fucking Bill Burr, monster destroyed. And Rogan had this bit that I think of. I can't think of him without thinking of how great this fucking bit is about Caitlyn Jenner. I was like, it's one of the best. It's one of the fucking greatest perspectives on that.
Be careful.
Yeah,
I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah,
you know, that whole controversy with the stuff Bill Burr did on Conan about Caitlyn Jenner.
No, what happened?
You know, he did some jokes that I thought were really funny about how he has to get used to it because he came up when this guy was the greatest athlete in the world, and now he's a woman or she's a woman. Like, he was just kind of like getting into how confusing it can be and stuff. Yeah. And just got so much Twitter outrage.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I wonder if like, if you could
coddling of the American mind.
Coddling of the American mind. I wonder how much. Well, there is a weird thing about life that, like, I was saying to my kids the other night. I was like, you don't understand. Like, when I grew up, like, there is that thing where I go, like, I was in a generation where I've witnessed change more than any generation probably previous, other than maybe the Rockefeller generation when industry came in and cities started changing and cars showed up. Like, this, our lifetime has had more change than anything. I mean, when I was a kid growing up in Florida, I don't know who I was saying this to, but like, the N-word was used a lot. Like,
oh, really?
Oh, a lot. Like, not by myself or my parents, but like, growing up in the South, you would hear it, and you would hear it unapologetically at a grocery store, and by a white person, and you'd go, just keep your head down.
Right.
And I mean, in our neighborhood, it was part of an adjective. Like, you threw that word at the beginning of the end of another, like,
phrase,
verb,
a
verb, and that became the way that verb was displayed.
Right.
Like, I'm not getting too into it because I don't like talking about that. But
no, I have no idea what you're talking about.
But
so.
But like, and then we went through emails, through the internet, through the accessibility of the world, through political correctness. I mean, political correctness has changed everything and so much.
Well, I almost feel like the political correctness thing is almost a reversion to making things more difficult to talk about.
Oh, yeah. That's what that whole coddling of the American mind's about, is that political aggression or political correctness and trigger words have made it that they're not teaching. They're not teaching the legalities of sexual assault in legal classes in college anymore because kids complained, and it seems like the person that gets most offended in the classroom is the one who's got the loudest voice. So now there's a teacher who said, I was upset and I quit teaching. And this is what I was listening onto an NPR, because he said, I was asked to no longer teach the rape laws and sexual assault laws in class.
It's a trigger for
because
people.
It was a trigger for people. And he said the person that hurts the most is the victim. Because now I'm not teaching something, so who will get hurt the most is the person who will possibly one day get raped, because now a bunch of these kids don't know the legalities of this, because I can't teach it in a school where it's supposed to be a breeding ground for thought and for constructive thought and a place where you're supposed to come up with great ideas. That's what college was like for me. I remember it showing up, and when I was mostly with drugs, but I showed up and I remember feeling like I'd learned about the Grateful Dead and Fish and Widespread Panic and all these things about things I didn't know about.
Yeah, I was not good in college. So
did you?
I was really young when I went to college. I had just turned 17.
Really?
And I really felt it. I felt much younger than everybody there. I'd gone to an all boys high school, so this was my first time dealing with girls and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a girlfriend in high school and everything, but dealing with that on a regular basis, and I felt weirdly unsocialized compared to everybody else, which was totally not true, but was a huge barrier in my head. And that's sort of, I don't know, I think part of my comedy comes from that, of always feeling outside of everything else and not part of everything. But so when I got to college, I was like, okay, I'm younger than everybody. Everybody else is cooler than me. So I'm going to try to be cooler than them, or show them how cool I am by staying up later, drinking more, doing less work, going to class less often than everybody else.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of a waste of 4 years.
4. I was in 7.
Well, I found out second semester senior year I failed a class and wasn't able to graduate on time, which was very traumatic because I had to go home and tell my parents to cancel their hotel reservations and tell all my family they weren't going to come up for my graduation. So that was and by the way, at most schools, if you fail a class second semester senior year, you can still go through graduation because they know you'll get your degree. But
that happened to me.
Not at my school.
I failed 2 classes my senior year, and they still let me walk.
Yeah.
And then they told me, you need to take correspondence classes because the teacher wouldn't pass me.
Most places are like that.
And so I moved to New York and took correspondence classes. Hung out at that Astor place, Barnes & Noble. Do you remember that place?
Yeah.
I used to work there.
Oh, really?
I ended up working there, but I'd hang out there and I'd get coffee and I'd work and try to fucking get through these classes. And
for many years, that was where I went to get my hair cut all the time.
Oh, the Astor place.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, oh, really?
Right there, yeah.
I never got a haircut there.
It was great.
There was
$10.
I loved that whole little
Those
area.
90s haircuts where you get them high and tight, with
yeah,
lots on the top and nothing on the sides.
When did you move to LA?
2004.
Really?
So,
what was the point?
I always had this idea in my head that I was going to move to LA when somebody asked me to, when somebody gave me a job.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't happening. And I actually came out here in 2003 to work on a show for Besser that Besser did called Crossballs for Comedy Central.
Crossballs?
It was a really funny show. So I came out here for 3 weeks, and I had an agent by then out here. And
that was Crossballs was when a make-believe person would argue a real person.
Correct.
That was a great show.
So I got to be on it a couple times, and then did some writing.
Are those
for
online?
It. So it was, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna go watch some Crossballs. I bet they're 10 times funnier now that I'm a smarter fucking comic.
I had some fun on that show, but when I came out here, my agent was like, I'll set up some meetings for you. So I was here for 3 weeks, and in 1 week, I think I had 15 meetings around town with every network and production company and management agency and whatever. And I was like, LA is great. I'm going to come out here. I'm going to move out here. It's going to be, So I moved out here in 2004 and fucking nothing, just nothing.
It's amazing how quickly they forget and go on with their own lives.
Yeah, well, if you're from somewhere else, then you're interesting. But if you're from here, nobody cares.
Yeah.
You're just another Yahoo in L.A. But I was lucky, actually, because I did get my first real sitcom writing job within 8 months of moving out here. And
what show was that?
It was a show called Love, Inc., which was on UPN. It was about a dating service where they would go out with you and be your wingman. It starred Busy Phillips and Holly Robinson Pete, and I will say it was not a great show, but it was a great experience for me because it really taught me how to write sitcoms.
Yeah.
I mean, we did a full season, so I did 22 episodes of that show,
and so you learned the structure.
It's like an education, yeah.
It's like taking a master's class.
Yeah. And the cool thing about that show was, one day we were in the writers' room. And
they both walked in naked.
No. Somebody's assistant comes in and goes, Quentin Tarantino's assistant is on the phone, and he wants to know, or the assistant wants to know if Quentin can have DVDs of every episode of the show because he loves the show. And a friend of mine, Andy Secunda, who created the show, was like, this has to be somebody playing a prank or whatever. Like, this is a joke, but sure, send them, wherever they want. Just send them, And so we had this whole debate, like, was it real? Was it not real? Was it real? And then apparently at the Oscars that year, it was the year that Michelle Williams maybe was nominated. Somebody who was friends with Busy Phillips. So Busy went to the Oscars, and she went to a party. Quentin Tarantino was all the way across the room, and as soon as she walked in, he was like, Busy! And, like, came running over and was talking about how much he loved the show, and yeah. So, obviously Quentin Tarantino has some weird tastes, but
that's an interesting guy. I saw him in New York at the Starbucks that's off of 7th Avenue, in between Bleecker and West 3rd. There used to be a Starbucks in between Bleecker and West 3rd, or Bleecker and West 4th.
Okay.
And there was a Starbucks like right around there. I saw him writing. I can only assume
Django.
This was so long ago. This is like
True Romance.
No, not that long. But he was writing all of whatever. No, it was. I can only assume it was Kill Bill.
Kill Bill.
And he was writing it on a.
He writes longhand.
Yeah, longhand. And I was watching.
I just read an interview with him yesterday, and he says, and I love it because I write longhand too. I can't do it on the computer.
Really?
And he was like, the guy goes, "Do you still write everything out longhand?" And he's like, "If you were writing a poem, would you do it on the computer?" Which I thought was such a
very fucking. I wrote my book on a computer, and I was like, "Well, it's good because I won't lose it." But I tried writing a script in. I've been having these great moments that I go, "Oh, that's a sitcom moment." Like, but it's not on sitcoms right now. Like that doesn't exist. But it was a great sitcom moment. Like I go, "Oh, that's a good scene."
Right.
What's happening right now is very funny, and it's a good scene. Like yesterday, we drop off one of the Goodman kids, and my wife walks her into the house, and I'm alone with me and my 2 daughters. And I said to them, my wife's walking, and I go, "I love your mom's waddle." And then my daughters go, "You're very lucky she married you." And I said, "Well, you should have seen the chick I almost married." And they're like, "What?" And I go, "Yeah." And I start making up this person. I go, "Her name is Penelope." And they're like, "What did she look like?" And I go, "She was like 5'10", blonde hair." And I go, "She was a champion diver." And I start making up this person, and it was really fun. I go, "Yeah, she was a kid. She got into a bank robbery, and she had her parents had to move her to the mountains." And I start really like elaborate, and I was having fun creating this character. My daughters are listening,
and then you realized how much they're going to have to pay in therapy to make up for the fact that you just lied to them like that.
And so my wife gets in the car, and they go, "Mom, did Dad really have a girl he almost married?" And by the way, there wasn't a girl I almost married, but there was a girl before my wife.
Yeah,
there was a crossover.
There's probably more than one girl before your wife.
There was one girl. There was a crossover that I'm still friends with. So my wife thought I was talking about her. My wife's like, "Well, and they're like, did she really have a wolf?" And my wife's like, "A wolf?" She's like, "Yeah, she was the president of the Rescue for Cats and Dogs." I'm just painting pictures of shit all my daughters like, and my wife's like, "Wait, what was her name?" And Georgie goes, "Penelope." And my wife goes, "Yeah, Penelope Figment. That was her last name." And then they're like, "Wait, who are you going to marry?" And then I start drawing this picture of my wife's guy. I go, "His name was Corky." And I start painting this character of this guy. It was so funny. And I was like, "Oh, that could be, like, if I sat down and tried to write that, I bet I could make that funnier."
Yeah.
That's a good moment. And then
in a family type sitcom.
Yeah, but like I'm a different kind of dad. So it's like, but And so I was like, oh, that could be, but then I don't know. And so I've been writing in my joke book. I upped my joke book to a bigger book, and I've been writing in the back just scenes that I think are funny, and then writing out dialogue.
It's great to have that stuff, because then when it comes time to actually write something, you can just go look at all that and go, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this?
And then when I put them on my computer, they just disappear.
Because you don't know where they are.
But it's not in something. I don't flip through it. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not a place of things. It's a place.
That is a problem. I mean, for me too. Like I'm not good at organizing stuff anywhere, but especially on the computer.
Yeah. How many shows have you written on?
I couldn't tell you, but I would say somewhere in the vicinity of 7 or 8, maybe.
Yeah. Do you ever try to write your own show for yourself?
No, I never have. I'm trying to write. I've literally never even written a pilot for anything. Like, I've never even written a spec pilot, which is bad, because I should have that at this point. So I'm trying to write one right now, and the main character is definitely, I would not play him, but it's definitely based on me. It's funny. I had a meeting with my agents to talk about this idea, and I mentioned it came out of like me just falling into an internet hole and finding out stuff and whatever. And I'm like, I go, because I was 47, and I was like, if you have a good relationship with at least one sibling when you're 47, that is a predictor of a longer and happier life than other people. So I want to write. So I'm saying to them, I want to write this show about this guy who figures out all these little things he has to do to make himself live. And
ooh, I like that.
They go.
Oh, I fucking
and the
like
first
that.
thing the guy goes is he goes, okay, but could he be younger than that? Could he be a younger guy?
I fucking like that. Oh, that's like, it's like almost when you go, like when you look online and they say things that. The like people who walk 10,000 steps turn out to leave a hell. That fucking. It's almost like life hacks.
Right.
Like you find things out and you like notice them.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that.
So, but anyway, his immediate reaction was like, "That's way too fucking old,"
Yeah.
And I was like, "I'm not. That's not the point. The point is just like
You're missing the fucking. You're looking at the goddamn bark on a tree, going, I don't see the forest. Fuck, I hate when the agents do that and they just like, ugh.
They're coming to see me do stand-up tonight, so I'm a little bit...
Where are you doing stand-up tonight?
I'm doing... Well, I can't say because I'm taping something and we're not allowed to say what it's for.
Oh, yeah, but this isn't going to air today, so...
No, this is coming out not until January.
Okay. Well,
so.
I'll ask you off air.
But anyway, it's like... I've just started working with these guys because I didn't even have an agent when I got this Mr. Pickles thing, and I was like, I'm the fucking head writer of a show. I should have an agent by now.
Yeah.
So I started working with these guys, and they're great. I like them a lot, but it's like we're in the early dating phases.
The thing I think about agents is you don't want them to be your friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest mistake I've made, is having an agent be your friend. Then it's like all of a sudden it's like, and I'm not talking about, by the way, I'm not talking about like a booking agent. Like there's booking agents that have been my friend. I worked with Matt Frost for a long time and I love him dearly. I still do. But like as far as like your agents, you want them to kind of respect you but not like be like your boy.
Right.
Like I fell into that a couple times where they're like, I had an agent who just wanted to party, and you'd go out to parties and he'd invite you to parties, and you'd go out and do fun stuff, and you'd introduce him to hot chicks, and then you're like, am I your pussy agent? Like,
I'm going to rely on these guys to introduce me to hot chicks.
Yeah, but like I like the ones I'm with now. I'm over at UTA, and I like it because I walked in and they looked at me as a guy who could make them money.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's what I want you to look at me like.
Yeah, you want them to have dollar signs in their eyes.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, exactly.
And that's fucked up, but that is the system.
I want them to. I used to say, people used to say there was a guy like Mitch Hedberg, they kept him on the road too long. I want that. Mm-hmm. I want the guy that's like, I don't give a fuck about his health.
Right.
He needs to figure that shit out. I want to make money off this guy.
Right.
Because in that way, I'll make money. Like, I don't like, but my managers are different. They're like, well, Bert, you need to take all of December off. And I'm like, I'm not going to.
Your liver needs to take all of December off.
Do you drink?
Yeah.
Do you?
A lot.
A lot?
Yeah.
Me too. Fucking love it. Does Bester drink?
No.
He smokes pot, right?
Yeah.
What is that? Did you ever smoke pot and do improv?
No, I'm not. I've never been a pot smoker. I mean, I wish I had been a pot smoker because I feel like I do. Well, sometimes I enjoy it, sometimes I don't. Yeah. But I also feel like it's so much less harmful to you than drinking is. but I just never got into it.
How come the UCB doesn't have a show on Comedy Central? Just a UCB show. They used to, right?
They did. They had 3 seasons of a sketch show.
The best talent in the country is coming out of there.
But they're all doing so many other things at this point. I mean, Ian Roberts is one of the showrunners at Key and Peele, which is now ending, but he's running another show on TV Land, and Amy obviously has done reasonably well for herself. Matt Walsh is on Veep, and he's on.
By the way, I didn't know Matt Walsh was Matt Walsh.
Oh, really?
I didn't know. I knew him as the guy on Dog Bites Man,
which I also wrote for.
That was a great show.
Yeah, really
that was
funny.
A really great show. Mm-hmm. I knew him as a guy on Dog Bites Man, and then ran into him at an audition, not knowing he's that Matt Walsh.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Hey man, I love Dog Bites Man," and he's such a nice, sweet guy. He just said, "Oh, thank you very much." And we ended up talking at this audition, and then I said, "Man, the guy from," in my head, I'm like, "The guy from Dog Bites Man is a fucking really nice guy." Then I fucking drive. We're in this neighborhood. He lives in this neighborhood, and
It's so funny because I've been to his house, and I haven't been there like in a year or two.
Yeah.
But I was like, "This is right where Walsh lives." When I was driving over here,
and I said, we do every 4th of July. There's a big parade for the families. Everyone gets on the bikes, and we all dress our bikes up and ride our bikes around. And I saw Matt Walsh, and I went, "I know that guy. How do I know that guy?" And in my head, I couldn't figure if it was Man versus Man Bites Dog or Dog Bites Man or what. And I went, "No, it's interesting." And I was trying to take a picture of my daughter. Sometimes I'll take my camera and hang it low. And instead, I ended up getting a picture of his calf. And it looked amazing. It was
You're talking about the child of his cow, right? His calf?
Right. Yeah. But he was on a child's bike, riding a child's bike, and it happened that his calf looked yoked. And I went, "I know that guy." I got a picture of his calf. If I ever run into him again, I'm going to tell him I got the best fucking... It's a good picture of him, by the way, because it's his
I've
calf.
I've been jerking off to your calf
but you see him
months.
in it. If I find this, I'm going to fucking post it. But and then I saw him over at Marie I.C., the coffee shop that over there that everyone in the neighborhood ends up going to. And I saw him and I go, "Dude," I walk up to him and I'm like, "I got the most amazing picture of your calf." And he's not the kind of guy that's like, "Oh, cool, send it to me." He's like, "Excuse me?"
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt Walsh is very talented.
He's a great actor. Great actor.
But all the school and all the people going through UCB, like there should be.
Oh, Broad City is people who came out of UCB.
Yeah.
And then every time I turn on the TV, every show has people from UCB on it. So they're a factory at this point.
Yeah. What's your podcast?
My podcast is called The Long Shot.
I thought that's what it was.
And it's at thelongshotpodcast.com. It's just myself and a woman who's a comic named Amber Kenny and a guy who says he's a comic. I don't know that he is, whose name is Jamie Flam. He's also the booker at the Improv, and he's a baffled man. But I love him. Love you, Jamie.
Is it just the three of you?
It's the three of us, but we have guests a lot of times. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have a new guest. We have a new host this season. When we started the show, Eddie Pepitone was one of the hosts.
I heard you and Eddie Pepitone. And then I've watched you and Eddie Pepitone online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then Eddie left the show to do his own podcast, and we didn't have. It was just the three of us. And now Joe Wagner, who's a very funny guy, has joined as one of the hosts, and we often have guests on the show.
I'd love to be a guest.
I would love to have you as a guest.
I'd love to be a guest. I love you on Improv for Humans.
Oh, thanks.
So fun.
I love Improv for Humans.
It's so fun.
What a fun show.
And that's at Earwolf. You guys shoot that at Earwolf?
Earwolf, yeah.
Yeah. I've been there so many times. I was like, oh, that's such a great fucking show.
It's really fun. Yeah, but we do the long shot in my kitchen. So
really?
We did it at ATC for a while, but it just didn't have the same vibe. It's like in my, I love ATC, and thank God Al and Bill put that all together.
Yeah.
But the studio at ATC, you sit in a semicircle,
so no one's facing each other.
Yeah, and in my kitchen, we're all sitting around the table looking right at each other, and it's a different vibe.
I'll tell you the only podcast I've ever done at ATC that, well, I take that back. 2 podcasts I've done at ATC that the studio wasn't a hindrance.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning the
setup.
The setup was Punch Drunk Sports and Felipe Esparza. Do you know Felipe?
No.
Okay.
Is he the guy who was on Last Comic Standing?
He is the
long hair,
fascinating guy.
Uh-huh.
You got to get him on your podcast.
Yeah.
He really is interesting as shit. really fucking fascinating.
Uh-huh.
That's what the one thing that's so cool about being in this network is that you come home and you're like, hey man, like there's all of you guys, so many of you guys that I wanted to talk to. I feel uncomfortable. Honestly, I feel uncomfortable reaching out to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm afraid people are going to be like, I don't know who the fuck you are.
Oh, no, that's not true. It's funny you say that because when I got that email that said Bert wants to have people on his podcast, whatever, I was like, I'll email him. I don't know if he'd want me on the show. But
fuck yeah. Are you fucking kidding me?
That's so funny.
Yes,
just everybody's image of themselves is so different from everybody's image of other people.
What I'd like to do more of, I got to a place, I had a very big tent pole month in my podcast where I got more numbers than I've ever fucking gotten.
It was your Transformers period.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was, though, was it was just the fact that everyone on that podcast that month was famous.
Right.
And I was like, and it was cool. It was very cool to talk to them, but I felt like chasing after famous people was not like...
That's exactly what we did with the long shot early on.
Yeah.
Was like, no one's going to listen to us.
You get Paul F. Tompkins
get
on.
This person on.
Yeah,
right.
You get Besser on. You get...
What I noticed after a while was that for us... it didn't make a huge difference in the numbers, whether we had somebody very well known, somebody not known, nobody.
Yeah.
So it gets to the point where it's like, we have our dedicated audience. Let's just have fucking fun doing this.
And it's not, you don't want to just get the people that download you on that episode because they saw the guy they like.
Mark Maron's going to be on there.
Yeah. And so what I like to do, and I do this, I'm going to do this more often. What I'd like to do is do this.
Mm-hmm.
Hang out with people where you can just hang out with other comics and just talk, where you can talk about whatever.
Right.
I love that. I did Jackie Cation yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I did Owen Benjamin yesterday. I got like a bunch of really great fucking talent, funny people just to shoot the shit with. But what I really want to do, and then I'm going to do a solo podcast in the week. In the middle of the week, I'm going to do one by myself to work on whatever, to talk out loud about whatever I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I'd like to do is I want to start doing more of where I bring like 4 people in and we just drink and shut the doors.
That would be fun.
And do it at like the end of the night, or maybe like I did one with a bunch of black guys. It was called my Blackcast, and we drank at like 8, 9 in the morning, and we were fucking lit by 11 when we wrapped it up. And I was like, I gotta fucking take a nap. Like, but those ones where people come over and drink are the best.
You got to be careful. We've done that a few times on our show, and it's been really fun. Like we'll just pop open a bottle of Jameson's or something, and it's been great. Then we had one episode, and I will tell you this. I have a thing where once in a while, not often, but maybe every 3 or 4 months, because this business is so up and down.
Yes.
So I'll do something. Like I was working on Mr. Pickles. I finished Mr. Pickles, and it's like being on a boat in the doldrums in the middle of the ocean. You got nothing in front of you, nothing behind you. You don't know what the fuck is going to happen. And so I do a thing where I will just once in a while go full on Charles Bukowski and just leave my house at 11 o'clock in the morning and go find a bar and start drinking. And it's fun for me. It's like I meet crazy people, but they're all really interesting and whatever. So I did that. Then I came home and I realized we had a podcast recording that night. So it's like I've been drinking all day. It's now 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
At 6, people are showing up to do the podcast. And I'm like, okay, let me take a nap for half an hour. But I'm wasted, you know? So they show up to do and what I should have done was I should have called in sick. I should have called in sick that day. They show up, Jamie brings a bottle of whiskey with him. So now I start drinking again, and I was just having difficulty stringing sentences together.
What episode number is that?
It's I don't know the number, but it was the last episode of season 9. And it's like I couldn't even listen to it because I turned it on. And you know that drunk voice people have sometimes where it's like you're trying to say something. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, fuck this. And I had a thing in my head where I was like, I don't want to release this episode. But then I was like, you know what? I'm a grown up. Let me just accept responsibility for my actions. And of course, our fans are so dedicated that I'm sure a lot of them hated it, but a lot of them were like, that was my favorite episode ever.
Yeah. Whenever I get drunk on an episode, everyone fucking loves it. Like I got every time I've ever done Rogan, they're like, if I'm not drinking, they're like, you're not drinking? And you're like, well, I thought I'd take the day. I'm trying to be healthy. Oh, fuck healthy, man. I got to fucking drive a forklift.
But I will never do that again. I mean, I'm not saying I won't have a drink on the show, but I will never just be
hopefully
loaded and then get more loaded as the show goes on. You know?
I'm going to try to set them up. I'm going to try to set them up with the emails I got. I'm going to do it through my wife the way I've been doing it, and I'm going to try to set up like I come in town and like, hey guys, let's do like a fucking 5 p.m. early cocktail sunset.
Great.
And get like fourth. And if you're in, I'll put you on that
absolutely.
circle. I'd love to do it, dude. Thank you so much for doing this. I really
thank
appreciate
you for
it.
having me.
This has been fucking. This is the reason I podcast. Honestly, because we never get this opportunity to.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that to somebody. My cousin is a comedy nerd, and I saw him down in Virginia last week, and we were talking. You know, he listens to my podcast, but he also listens to everybody's podcasts, and I love it because it means there's one person in my family who kind of understands the world I live in and what I do.
Yeah,
which nobody understands that.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it, and I was like, when do you ever... I love the podcast that I do, and I love doing this, because when do you ever get to sit down with one person or two people and just have an uninterrupted conversation for an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours?
I would never get this opportunity.
I mean, you're at a bar, and there's people, coming up, and you just don't do it. I don't talk this way to my family.
Let alone what an off. I mean, I say this as a fan of podcasting. But how awesome is it to listen to two very funny people talk? Mm-hmm. Like it's one of the.
If you can tell me where there's a podcast like that, that would be great.
That's how we end the show, everybody. Sean, thank you so much. Thanks, I appreciate it.
This episode was brought to you by The Machine.